Since the end of August 2022, I have moved to the Smashbox controller. It is made by Hitbox. It's a leverless controller is what they call it in the FGC, and it's a box. I know there's a lot of discourse around box, especially in the Melee community, and there's, I think, some memes about the box in the Smash Ultimate community, but I want to explain what the box is, how it works, and then some uses you can use for it if you are interested in the controller, as well as dispelling some myths. If you are specifically looking for some Pikachu-specific tech, I'm going to be going over a different video with that because I feel like I've tried to record me talking about that, and just a lot of it becomes about Pikachu when I kind of want it to be a general Smashbox video, and then also a specifically why I switched to Smashbox because of what Pikachu can do on the box. Let's get into it. So we're gonna have the gameplay, my box itself with a webcam, so you can see the buttons I'm literally pressing, as well as the related inputs on both my visualizer for the Smashbox, as well as what it is on the GameCube controller. So one of the first biggest things about the Smashbox that you can do is customize any button to do any input in Smash, whether it's rather single input, such as grab, attack, special, jump. Any button can be anywhere on the Smashbox specifically. I know some boxes you cannot actually customize what the buttons do, and it's kind of just a set thing. That's one of the reasons I actually picked the Smashbox. The real reason I picked the Smashbox was actually, I was always relatively interested in these type of controllers, and then I saw Sean, the Falcon from Florida who traveled all across the country. He tried I think the BOXX, and he didn't really like it, and he said, oh, if I was gonna do this again, I would pick the Smashbox. So then instead of trying anything out, I just picked the Smashbox. It also just happens that one of the most active Smashbox users is a Pikachu player, so I was able to glean a ton of knowledge from them. Shoutouts to WT Finland. I'm gonna put all their links in the description. They have been a huge help when it comes to me learning this. It's been about 6 months. I think I was relatively comfortable in the first month, but it's going to take you a long time to get comfortable with everything. I'm still learning more and more things of what I can do with the box and how to do it comfortably, or just remembering everything, because specifically Pikachu has a ton of options, but let's get more into the general stuff. So first off, an explanation. My movement things are, you see up, down, left, right. Of course, these are all going to be, cardinal directions. I don't think in Ultimate you need to do a full 1.0 like you do in Melee. So these are actually only about halfway there on the horizontal axis, and then about 3/5 on the vertical axis, because Ultimate doesn't really have a difference between full 1.0 and not. And then as you can see in the visualizer, this is going to be B, A, Y, as well as L on mine, depending on which loadout I want to do. These are both basically jump in my controls though, as well as X, which is another jump button. Then we have shield down here, grab over here, because I like having access to both of these as my thumbs, so I can be doing whatever and then just randomly shield. The only real issue is if I want to do a C-stick and then immediately shield, but then I can just slide my thumb, kind of like you would, if you're going to slide from jump to special or something on the GameCube controller. And then for Pikachu, the rest of them are basically modifiers. I have X1 over here, which is one of the ways that I can alter my movement to a little walk. So this is going to be a more minor movement, as well as X2, which is going to be a little bit more, it's a little bit more of a movement compared to the X1, but still significantly less than the full left and right. Then you have the same thing with the up variants. As you can kind of tell, if I let go of the Y2 button, you can see it in the GameCube version, like the GameCube controller inputs, that it goes down. Same thing with Y1. And again, they're just slightly different. These are all modified specifically for quick attack angles. You can change these angles to whatever you want. If you want a specific amount of, a modifier on your X with either X, or you only just want one X modifier in general, you can do that again. Because I get a lot of questions being like, oh, ESAM, how do you walk? It's mostly with these buttons. As well as I have some tilt modifiers, which basically is just another version of these. But again, Pikachu specifically needs a lot of angles, so my modifier situation is going to be a little bit more extreme than most other characters, if not all other characters. Then of course we have the C-stick, and again I have my C-stick set to tilt stick, so it's just your C-stick. Of course that's why these buttons are yellow and the movement ones are red, but again technically you can put any button anywhere. I remember I think WT Finland actually has this as his shield button, and then it's down, left, up, and right on his C-stick. You can change your C-stick buttons to anywhere. You can even have your C-stick buttons up here if you want to, or at least one of them. If your character really likes to up tilt, you can just have your C-stick button up here. It's not what mine is, but it is something that is possible. As I mentioned before, my tilt modifiers, my tilt 1 and tilt 2 modifiers, are going to be, again, more angles, and they're going to actually be a combination of, they actually switch both my X and my Y variables. So instead of having to click, like if I want to do a down left at a specific angle, instead of having to click 2 different modifiers like this, which I don't even know if that technically does anything, I think it does. I can just kind of hit these buttons and do one of them, which is a little bit easier. This also gives me access to buffer turnaround down tilts and up tilts, which is very nice. Then I have my mode button, which essentially just changes all of my different angles. For like if I'm holding a diagonal, it's just, you can see it kind of change in the GameCube version of it. Same thing with like this. This is basically just only for quick attack, essentially, and I will explain more about this button in the Pikachu specific video. And then I have left stick to D-pad, which basically turns on taunts, which is useful for both using training mode mod because you need to do up and down taunts and stuff like that. And then I have my left D-pad, or sorry, my side D-pad to special. And that's useful for, again, another Pikachu tech, which I can get into more in the Pikachu video, but I'll be showing it off. So I guess next up, I kind of want to just talk about the quote-unquote issues that a lot of people have with box. There is significantly less bullshit in the Ultimate version of the Smashbox compared to the Melee variants because there's just generally less exploits in the game. I can't be holding my C-stick down the entire time to ASDI down while dash dancing because ASDI down doesn't exist in Ultimate, so that's not an issue. Melee, of course, has a lot of difference between a dashing of a 1.0 versus 0.8 in terms of like if your axes of your control stick was like all the way left is 1.0 and then almost all the way to, you know, the left is 0.8. Those have different run strengths. So it's not as much of an issue in Ultimate because it caps pretty low because they wanted to make sure that the joystick wasn't as sensitive as it is in Melee, which is a huge problem and one of the reasons the controller lottery even existed in the first place in Melee. And if you don't know what that is, don't worry about it or just YouTube the controller lottery and smash Melee. So when it comes to the box, I feel like in Melee specifically, there are universal advantages to every character to play it. I'm not saying it's necessarily optimal for every character, but there are always going to be advantages because of the way the game engine works. In Ultimate, from what I've realized, other than just like, oh, it's more comfortable to like play with this, it's ergonomic. You know, I messed up my wrist at Genesis because I fell off of a scooter. My entire left hand hurt, especially my wrist, and I couldn't really move my thumb super well. So if I was playing on a GameCube controller, I probably would have been screwed, but because I was playing on the Smashbox with the ergonomic design that it has, which is basically just, if you don't know what that word means, basically just better for your hands, I was able to play, and I didn't really see any issue with it.
I mean, I could say there was because I got 65th, but realistically, I don't think that there was an issue.
So in Smash Ultimate, it's less so of universal advantages as opposed to character-specific advantages. Everything that you're going to see with like, oh, the box is stupid, it's going to be specific characters. Like Pikachu is one of them because I have access to up B going up twice, which is not really feasible to do on the GameCube controller. Box Kazuya specifically has a lot of silly things as well as some advantages for Box Steve. I'm sure there are more characters with more advantages, I'm just less familiar with them, but basically it's just going to make everything a little bit easier, especially if you are used to playing with keyboard or playing FPSs in general. The box style controllers are going to be a little bit more intuitive for you. Probably the biggest universal advantage, which is a pretty minor one for Smash Ultimate, is the ability to slingshot really easily. Yes, slingshot is a big deal, Gamer was not wrong about that. It ends up being really easy because all you have to do is piano all 3 of your fingers down because of something called SOCD, or Simultaneous Opposite Cardinal Direction, which basically says if I hit left and then right, it's going to do, for me, my second input. There is first input, there is, I think, mixed, and then there is second input. You know, a lot of Smash Ultimate players will play second input, so that way I can just kind of hit all 3 buttons, and I'm going to get, you know, the slingshot. I actually don't do that very often. I kind of do lift my fingers off, which I think is a little bit unnecessary. That's just kind of how I play, which is a little bit silly. But yeah, slingshotting, very, very easy with the Smashbox. Another just general reason that I like it is I have access to basically every button at all times. If I want to hit Y and B on the game controller, I have to flick my thumb a little bit farther, and if I end up needing to do one because of a situational change, there is a likelihood that you're going to mess that up. However, on the Smashbox, again, I have shield and grab always available to me, as well as this finger is always going to be jump with these 2 buttons, and then I have special and attack because you generally aren't going to need those 2 at the exact same time unless you're trying to do like AB smash. And of course, in general, another advantage of the box is precision because you don't have to worry about your left thumb doing everything perfectly when it comes to movement. Again, with the combination of being able to do to have a button for basically every single input that you want to do. It means that the only way you can really mess up is by hitting the wrong buttons or doing something too quickly, as opposed to, oh, my left thumb messed up. And again, that's a big deal for Pikachu because one of the biggest issues for Pika is like, oh, I tried to do my second angle on my quick attack and my left thumb was slightly not far enough. So therefore, I messed everything up and I die. Of course, you can attack cancel with tilt stick just the same way as you would before. So it's not really an issue. So basically, like, the biggest, ironically, the biggest issue that I have had in terms of Smashbox is going to be one of the negatives, which is quick inputs that you are used to doing very easily with the left stick are going to be a lot less intuitive. Turnaround grab, to me, is still the most awkward input ever, because you can't just hit back and Z, because you'll dash, and dash grab is extra frames compared to just turnaround grab. So having to click multiple buttons in order to do a relatively simple input is annoying, even if sometimes the advantage of hitting multiple buttons for a more complex input is there. It doesn't necessarily always mean that every single input is going to be very simple. Again, there's specific controls that I have, or specific, layouts for all what my buttons and my tilt modifiers do, to the point where I can get easily turn down tilts and turn F tilts. But it's still going to be a little bit more, or a little bit less intuitive than just hitting the control stick slightly up when you are just playing, just like, oh, I'm just gonna like pull my control stick a little up. It's very simple to do that. It's a little bit less simple with the Smashbox, so you're going to have to be careful not only to relearn how you play the game, and the more intense movements, which come a little bit more easily, but the slight movements, especially slight air drifts for characters that really need that, it's a huge pain in the ass. Another issue kind of with the same thing is doing slight DIs, because not every single DI is going to be, a straight 45-degree angle. Sometimes you need like slight DIs where you want to be, slightly a little bit more horizontal, but not full horizontal, because you still want to hold down a little bit. Those, again, are a little bit less intuitive, and you have to understand how to do that with your own setup, and it can kind of be annoying. I remember when I first started out, people were talking about, oh, what do you think are like some bad characters with the Smashbox? And on playing it more, like I remember at the beginning I said like, oh, Min Min probably wouldn't be good for the Smashbox, but I found that to be not the case. I don't think there's necessarily a character that is bad on Smashbox as long as you are willing to learn some of the more awkward things with them, like Ness and Lucas's PK Thunder recoveries are probably a little bit annoying, but then you can just, hit your control stick in a circle, understanding how PK Thunder works, so it's not the most difficult thing ever. And again, the ability to customize your controller and just have whatever fingers you want to do whatever inputs, you can just make that the case, and it is very, very simple. Obviously, I do not have experience with the other box controllers. I find it really awkward that some of the box controllers don't have like WASD-esque movement abilities where like each part of your movement is a different finger. That seems really awkward to me, considering I have played a little bit of computer games, so WASD makes sense where like you can't move up and down at the same time, but in Ultimate you really wouldn't want to do that anyway, so I feel like it makes more sense to have WASD type input with the up and the down right above each other. Again, if you want a better breakdown on exactly what my angles for everything are and why, I will be more than willing to do that in my Pikachu video because it's a little bit more relevant to quick attack. One nice thing about the Smashbox is it actually has 3 different inputs, so if you play different characters that need different control schemes, you can actually just change what they are and have completely different setups, which again you can just do in your Smashbox profile. I actually have this one that I'm currently on set to like the Kazuya, the broken Kazuya profile, even though I don't really use Kazuya that often. And then these two are essentially the same, like the first one and the second one are basically the same, but this button is Y or L because sometimes like when I'm in training mode I need frame by frame, and then other times I need Y to exist for like camera stuff. If you want to pick up Smashbox, first off, good luck. Most of them are sold out. I'm super lucky to have actually got this because I asked Smashbox, hey, I want to use one, can you give one to me? And they were like, sure. So popular. That's not going to be the case normally. I know these are on like 6-month back order or something like that, so again, good luck. But if you do get it, I do have some recommendations for you, and I'm basically just parroting what Sean said in his little write-ups of it. I'm going to link those in the description as well if you are curious. Obviously, it's going to take a long time to get used to every single button, but what I did is basically just play simply, and I was training mode for a while. I was just training mode and getting used to movement, right? Adding each individual input as it came. I got it a little bit because I had played with a different box style controller, I'm pretty sure like years ago in Smash 4. I didn't end up liking it, but I kind of was used to at least the movement part, so it wasn't that big of a deal. And then just adding one step at a time, jumping this way, drifting back. dash attacking and then walking backwards, dash attack and then shield, remembering where all your buttons are. It's kind of what I tell people to do with Pikachu Quick Attack when I'm just like, oh, go upright and then, right entirely. And just being able to do that is going to be a huge deal in my opinion. So again, doing like a raw up air or a slingshot up air, doing short hop fastballs, and just basically getting your movement as clean as possible, as fast as possible. And just remembering, like giving yourself basically a regiment of, okay, I want to do these inputs in this order. So I want to do like a turnaround or an attack cancel backwards up air into a dash attack into roll to the left. So you do, what was it? This, roll left. And just basically doing a bunch of inputs stringing next to each other so you remember where all your buttons are. You can do the techniques that you're going to have to learn, and then you just kind of go from there. I remember one of the first things that I did after literally the initial like setup of just like, okay, what are all my buttons? I basically started to up air bridge people, and I just did that as Pikachu. Because for me, as a Pikachu player, I was aware that like, okay, up air bridges do show a lot of things. It's showing me how to slingshot, it's showing me where my C-stick buttons are, or if I want to use the A button or not, which I definitely don't want to do that. I don't even know, can I even do that with the A button at this point? Yeah, no, I don't want to do that. And so I learned, okay, I want to do that only with the C-stick because I thought maybe I'd be able to. So then it was slingshot, it was full hopping, it was fast falling, and then it was just doing the combo that I kind of already knew how to do through my time on GameCube controller. So basically, I just gave myself a regiment of, okay, I want to learn how to slingshot. I want to learn to make sure that I can jump forward with full momentum and not jump up and then move forward. But I don't want to dash forward before I jump. So it's just very particular timings that I basically got used to. Of course, one of the biggest things for me was just learning all of the different quick attack angles with all of the modifiers, which again, I'm still kind of learning how to use. I am not 100% proficient at them, even if I am much, much better than them or at them than I would expect already, because I guess I'm just a fast learner, very lucky about that. And so yeah, just learn the techniques and the combos with your characters, and then over time, you end up just getting more and more comfortable. You are able to learn more and more complex things with the box, because I mean, similar to just you learning how to do a specific combo, or you're learning how to do a specific technique. I know in my Meat Brawler combo video, I said, hey, learn this basic combo first of Nair, down tilt, dash attack, or sorry, forward air into dash attack. And then once you learn that and learn the timings, then you can start doing the more complex stuff that ends up leading to the 0 to deaths. And it's basically the same thing for learning a controller. You learn the simple stuff, then you learn the slightly less simple stuff, then you learn the intermediate stuff, and then you learn the slightly more expert stuff, and then you learn the expert stuff, and then you learn how to be consistent at doing all of it all the time forever. And welcome to getting good at the inputs of Smash Bros. Ultimate. That's kind of how you're going to have to do that most of the time. And yeah, I hope you all enjoyed this video. I know it was relatively simple. Most of the reason of why I have a lot of these buttons is specifically for Pikachu, so look forward to the Pikachu Smashbox explanation as well as the kind of why I play Smashbox, because I picked it up for Pikachu and then happened to use it for my other characters because I feel like using multiple controllers at a tournament would be kind of awkward. Technically I could, but it would be a little awkward. So most of why I play this, controller is because of Pikachu. I happen to like it, and I'm sticking to it, at least for the time being. Thank you all for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. I would appreciate it, and I will see you next time.